Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons. In this quick guitar tricks we're looking at 5 tips to help your wrist. Not the most exciting topic, I know, but a really important one. Being largely self-taught, I picked up a load of idiosyncrasies and habits, some of which are kind of useful, most are fairly inconsequential, and others are really quite detrimental to my playing. Gripping the neck too tightly along with my poor wrist posture falling very firmly into that last category. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. I mean, the struggle is real, guys, let's face it. So hopefully by the end of this you'll have some solid pointers and methods on preventing wrist fatigue and damage. In the interest of keeping this monetized, at no point am I going to make that joke. Yeah, you know the one. I know you're thinking it. I know you know it. This is a guitar channel for guitar stuff. There's no room for that kind of debauchery here. Tip number 1, keep your wrist straight. It's not possible 100% of the time, but keep an eye on it. Your wrist wants to be like this, not shoved forward and not pulled back. If you've ever had to play any stretchy guitar parts, you'll know it's really quite draining to keep them up for any length of time. How do you keep it straight? Well, let's break that down into several contributing factors. Tip 2, consider the height and the angle of the guitar's neck. A low height will likely mean your wrist needs to bend to compensate, either like this, or backwards retracted if you're a thumb over the top kind of player. If you're someone who likes to not anchor their thumb and have it floating, you might have some luck at this height, probably with your thumb pointing more towards the headstock. Play about with these variables, mix them up and try to find a sweet spot where the height lets your favourite neck grip sit with a straight wrist. A 45-degree angle for the neck theoretically is meant to be the most ergonomic. Again, different strokes for different folks. But if you've not experimented with a tilted neck or height, just try it. I tend to practice sitting down, so naturally I fall into more of a kind of flat neck position with a fairly high guitar. Angling the neck really helps retain stamina for gigging, but it is very much something I need to remind myself to do. Tip 3. Where is the body resting? Again, I feel more comfortable with the guitar off to my right. This is where it sits when I practice. Moving it more central or to the left can help a lot depending on the part I'm playing and where on the neck my left arm is. Bonus tip. Eddie Van Halen is a great example of this, but taken to a bit of an extreme. He'll often be in a bit of a rock star pose, but often this just serves a purpose. He's angled his guitar in such a way that it makes playing whatever fretboard gymnastics his fingers are currently performing much more achievable. Tip 4. Make the guitar work for you, not the other way around. You're the boss here, remember that. So you might have seen clips of Slash pushing the guitar away from him. Is it to look cool? Maybe? Is it to say, I don't need this guitar, take it away? Unlikely. Is it to make it easier to play the part because his wrists are straight? I'd say yeah, that's probably why he does it. Try it yourself, this is deceptively simple. If your wrist is all bent upward, push the neck away from you and you'll notice it straightens up nicely. Now the body won't be as kind of securely held against your side here, but this can really reduce wrist tension. And it looks like you're showing off when you're not. Which, let's face it, is the best type of showing off. Tip 5. Don't make things any harder than they need to be. A vague statement, I mean, hard to fault, but oh so very indistinct. So for a practical example, let's take the humble bar chord. I spent a long time learning how to do these back in my formative years, as I'm sure most people do while playing guitar, and I have to admit it's a very rare occasion that I actually ever use one these days. It's just not a wrist-friendly chord. I mean, there's a reason why so many people struggle with that notorious F major. So what can you do? Well, looking in a Jimi Hendrix trick bag, we could go with the old thumb over the top to hold down the root note, or just miss out the root note like this. If you're in a band, the bass guitar is probably taking care of the root, and there are enough other notes in the chord that it's not always that necessary. So let's recap. Keep your wrist as straight as you can, as often as you can. Consider your guitar's height, the neck angle, the body position and distance from your own body. Play with these variables and adjust them as needed, and always try to look for ways for playing things that give you a nice and relaxed wrist. But this has been Quick Guitar Tricks, that's the playlist there. Click there for a great warm-up tip. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this and want more of this sort of thing in your feed, hit subscribe, click like, that does really seem to help the channel out. Share across social media platforms, leave me a comment and enable notifications by ringing that little bell on the side if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.